So, we were talking about hierarchy and why hierarchies are used and how to create hierarchies in Tableau, and how you can like change the hierarchy structure, add new items into that and remove items from the hierarchy, and then how we can actually go ahead and use the hierarchy in our view, and then create visualizations. And also we also saw how to create context filters, and what exactly are the advantages of having context filters. So it improves the performance, and then we can create dependent numerical or top 10 or top 5 or bottom 10 kind of filters. And then we also saw how to create one of these, the top 10 filter. And also we saw about the calculation filter, what are calculation filters. The calculation filter is something that it uses dimensions that are not actually used in the view itself, but we put them on the filter shelf and use that to filter the data that is being displayed in the view. And of course, and we have the table calculations. We started with the table calculations, and how we can add the table calculations, and what different kinds of the calculations can be done, and how um, our, our normal measure and a calculated like table, calculated measure, how it could be differentiated, using there is always this delta thing coming up. And we saw how to add the quick table calculation. And we also saw an example where we used the quick table calculation to come up with the proportions. That is a percentage of sales or something like that per customer segment. Okay. So what I will do is, I just go through another couple of examples of table calculations today, and also there are some functions that are available. There are lots of functions available actually in table calculation functions. We'll just go through a few of them, and then we can practice the other later. Till yesterday's, these slides that we went through, any questions or any clarifications you would want on those? Or Trinad, I mean, I know you had downloaded the software. Or did you get a chance to try? I mean, did you try it out? Try anything out yet? Okay. And Pratik, I think you were also wanting to have the PPT before you start. So I think you not tried anything. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I have not tried anything.
Okay, cool, no problem.
Yeah, I'll go today too.
Yeah, good. So what I was planning to do is, today we'll go through this some of the table calculations, and then the next topic is actually something like I'd like to take is something like the dashboard. So till now, whatever we have been doing is within the worksheet. So all these things are nothing but sheets that we are creating. So ultimately, when we actually publish the report, and then we present it to the business users or the higher management, so we do it in the form of dashboards. So whatever we are doing now, which are in single individual sheets, have to be put together and nicely put in a layout and presented to the end user. So we'll start with the dashboards probably tomorrow. I will take that, and then that will actually once we have that, you can start creating and practicing, and then creating dashboards, putting these sheets together and all those things we can try, and then we'll I'm sure, like as you try it yourself, you're going to have a lot of questions. So then we can probably spend a lot of time understanding the questions and answering those, and if there is anything that needs to be done, we can do that. So today I will, as I said, I'll just go through these table calculations, finish that, and there's some calculation functions. We'll do that, and then there are some other concepts like reference lines and all those things. So I will go through those things today. Okay. So this is another one of the table calculations available that we can use, create through the quick table calculation like menu here. So this is the year-to-date growth. So YTD growth. This is something like when you have one thing very important for this is you need to have a date field in your view to create a YTD table calculation. So what it actually does is, it based on what data you have put in the view, it will calculate the growth, year to date growth, and then it will show us the value. So we can just try an example here. We can take the date here, okay, and we'll put the product category, and we'll put the sales. Okay. So what is now if I try and do this, try to add the table calculation, you see that the year to date growth and year to date table total, these are grayed out. So we cannot create this until and unless, even if we have a date column in a view, is not allowing. That's because when it wants to do a year to date calculation, it has to have something else apart from the date. I'm sorry, apart from the year, because we are doing a calculation from for a month or a quarter or something like that, um, from this year to last year. So I'll just remove this and I'll keep the month alone, year and month. So now what if you see here now, you can actually see that this is highlighted. So it's very simple, and I'll just go and I'll click on this, and now you see that this part over here, you don't see anything over here, but then you start seeing values over after that. So what it's doing is it's calculating this month on month, year to date for each month over here, because we've kept the month as one of the time dimension grades. So I'll just put for clarity, and I'll just add the sum of sales to the text as well. So now you would see that we have, okay. So this is probably better. We have everything in a single view. So what I've done here is we have the year 2009, 10, 11, 12, and then we have the quarters on each of the year. So like Q1, Q2, and till Q4. So if you see here, what it is showing here is the sales, which is this part, this one. So it's like Q1 had 463,988 dollars sales, So next, in the next quarter, it is 320,875. So that means there has been a year to date degrowth, So growth is in negative. So that is what this is actually telling us. But you wouldn't see this here. You would see this negative value or a positive value over here, because there is no previous year to 2009 for us to compare against. So that's why you would always see this blank here in the first year, and then the second year that you have in the view, you would see the growth or degrowth in this case, in a couple of cases here. So this is a degrowth here, this is a loss here, but then here in 2012 it has picked up. So these help us in creating this kind of calculations wherein you want to see the year to date. So it could also be month on month. So year to date for each month you can calculate. So this 44 minus 44% is nothing but 208,508 minus 114994, and then the percentage of degrowth that's happened. So that's another way we can utilize the table calculations. So these things are so I mean these are readily available. So you don't really have to do a lot of coding to find out these things. So once you have your measures and your time dimension and the time hierarchy set up, you just go and say, show me the year-to-date growth or total and compound growth rate. And yesterday we saw how to create percent difference and then difference from percentage of total and running total and all those things. So this is a very nice feature, that is included in Tableau, so we can create these kind of reports pretty easily. Okay, so this is just a slide, which put into make just to underline the concept under in table calculations. So these are nothing but whatever the table calculations are computations that are applied to the values in a table. Okay, and these are unique in this. So what happens is they use data from multiple rows to come up with the value. So that's the difference between a normal calculated field, which is for a which would be generally for each row, and it takes value from that row to to create a calculated field. But in case you're going for a table calculation, ideally table calculation also creates a calculated field, but then the underlying calculation is a little different. It's unique because it considers multiple rows in the database to calculate a value. Because here, as you saw, what we were doing is we were trying to find out the difference between the sales last quarter and this quarter. Okay, in this case, it is here now. So you can also define it in a if you want it to calculate here. I mean, as compute using, so it is. You can also say table down. So now you see that what it's showing here is what is the difference between it's calculating table down, which means this way. So whatever 50% you are seeing here is not, and here you see even the first year over here, 2009 is having values, because we're not doing a table across, we're doing a table down, and there is a sales value for furniture, office supplies, and technology. So that is why you would see a 50% growth, year-to-date growth it's showing. So it's actually calculating a difference between this and this. So it is calculating this and this, and it's showing you a growth over there. So this doesn't generally make sense when you're doing an year-to-date. I just did this to illustrate that you could change the way it calculates as well, computes as well. So when we're doing an year-to-date growth kind of a thing, it has to be always across, so that, or depending upon how you put the data. So since I have rows as product category and columns as the time dimension, it has to be across. So that's I mean that is what this slide just tells, how you can calculate and what is the different ways you can just explains a simple overall, a high level concept of what table calculations are. And as I was mentioning, we have something like called table calculations. So till now, all the table calculations that we have created have been through by just using one of these. Let me just do another thing here. Okay, so it has been using this feature. I come here down and then I say, okay, create a table calculation for me, quick table calculation for me. But then there are other ways of doing it as well. So if you want to see, okay, yeah. So this is one of the table calculation functions, which is available, called first. So what this one does is, it gives the within each pane or a table, depending upon how you set up the computation, it will give us the difference between a particular row and the first row. Okay, now I'll just explain this again. So when we use this first table calculation function called first, so when we apply it to a row, what it does is it goes into this partition and it finds out where that row is lying. It's something like how far is it from the first row of this partition. So when our a first of function is applied on this row, it will give me -3 because it is like a 0. This is a 0. It's a -1 because it's one away from the first row, and 2 and 3. So this will be a -3. So that is how a first function would work. Now, these could be, the use of these are the uses are like are varied. So you might want to do a lot of different kinds of reporting, wherein you want to show, you want to calculate the difference between that, and then do some kind of different calculation based on the value that you get. So these are just whatever here. I can show you. The way to create that is, you go here and then create a calculated field like we would regularly do on a calculated field, and you can name it something like a for us, a salesperson. And then you just remove this, it's not required. Go here and use this, something called table calculation. Okay, then you have this here. This is all we do. So it says returns the number of rows from the current row to the first row in the partition. So it's a difference between the current row and the first row. This is all, and then you don't have to pass any parameters, no arguments, nothing. So just say okay. Then you have this sales first created here. So I can just drag this here and then put it. So you will see now, if you see, you will realize that this is being calculated computing across, table across. So that's why you're seeing 0 here, -1 here, -2 here, -3 here. And depending upon how you want your value to be, you can just say table down, and then you will see that it is like 0 because this is the first row, so it's 0. You'll see -1 here because this is the second row, and the difference is like it gives a number of rows. It's -1, -2, -3, and that way. So this is the example of how what first function can do for us. And then similarly, you have a lot of um, different functions like index and last, and these are all similar kind of functions. So you can just go here from this. This is another way of creating a calculator field. Just go to analysis, create calculator field, just give index sales, and then it's okay. And then we can drag that. Yeah. So index is something like it gives you the number that is it's like a rank. So like first depending upon where its position is, it will rank it. So if you're calculating it, computing it across, it's giving us this value 1 2 3 4 because in this row this is the order in which the data is available. I can just change it just like how we did for the other one, just say calculate by calculate compute table down. So then it will show us like 1 2 3 4. This is the rank. So this is generally used when you want to see like you want to find out in a table like which value is first, or pick up, you want to pick the first value, or the where index equal to 3, you want to pick such a value and then do some calculation again on top of it. That's when we could use these table calculations. So all the others are also similar. This last would give us the last, and then you have a lookup. It's similar to the lookup that you would do on a in an Excel. So you just give it give a lookup, use a lookup, and then say from where from for which on which column, and this is offset. How many rows ahead or minus, so that it will give you the value from that particular row. So these are simple very simple functions which we don't have to really write too much into this. Just use those kind of table calculated field dialog, and then go to the just go to formula and then functions, and then use the table calculation functions. Size is again a very nice feature, which you can use. I'll just show. This is a simple one. The size, you will see what it does. Yeah. So you see here, what it is doing is the size is basically, it tells you how many number of records or rows are there in a partition. So here, since we have it as a table compute across, you would see that it always shows 4 because we have four values here. 2009, 10, 11, 12. So if I change it to compute using down, then it would show 7 because it's like you have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 different product containers, so it is showing us 7. So these are like different simple different functions that you can use. So it gives me, if I want to find out how many number of records are there in for a particular product container. So I can just use this, or I want to find out the first column in a product container, then I can use for first. Or I want to find, just I want to access or use the third row, then I go for where index, where index equal to 3, then I would get this large box, this value. So that's the those are the functions that we have, and there are lots of them as we saw here. So each we can use a lot of these functions and try it, when you're practicing, so you can actually go through these functions. There are many. So you can also have, I will show you these things, which is like used in the coming up with statistical um, statistical calculations. You can actually go and find out the median and the standard deviation, the max and window average and all these things. So this is slightly in the advanced analytics. So I would probably have a separate class wherein I'll just show you some of these and examples, and I have a workbook which would have all these things done. So I will just share that across to you so that you can refer to that. So again, these are all different calculation functions that are available. Some are illustrated here, so you can go through and find out how to do these things. Okay. So any questions till now here, if you have on the table calculations? So I'll move on to the next topic. It's like aggregating and disaggregating the data. So what do we mean by aggregating and disaggregating? So aggregation is something, so whenever we have something, something of a measure, so like a sales or a profit or something like a trade investment, and those kind of measures that we are trying to plot or analyze. So generally Tableau, what it does is it aggregates it, so it aggregates it and then puts it into, so that as I mentioned earlier. So if you just see that, if you just see this, what I've done is I've just dragged the sum sales and it automatically does an aggregation, which is a sum. A sum is a default aggregation in Tableau. So that's why it just goes ahead and sums it. So you can actually change it into a different kind of aggregation. So you say I want an average, not a sum, but I want an average, or I want to see the count. So all these different things you can do, different kinds of aggregations you can create. Okay, so this is what is aggregated, so this is what aggregation means. And sometimes you might want to have the data to be disaggregated, so you want to have, when we say disaggregation, it means that we are going to see data at every row, independent of the aggregation. It will just show us the data for each row. So how can we actually do the aggregation or uh, disaggregation? So now what you're seeing here is an aggregated table. So I'll just, yeah, I can show you the same example. So I'll do this. I'll put this guy and I'll drag the profit guy here. Then both we have the sum of sales. So if you see, this is an aggregated value here. So when we say aggregated, the sum and the sales are computed for the entire organization and then plotted on this scatter plot. But if I want to see for each and every row, how can I do it? There's one way of doing that. I'll go here and then you have aggregate measure. Just uncheck it, and you see so many like marks here on the graph. So what it's doing is it's showing us, it's disaggregating the data, and it's showing us the data at each row level. So what you're seeing here is ideally each separate order that's being plotted here. So if I make it on aggregate measures, and then it goes back to the aggregated level. So generally we have always measures at aggregated levels, because only in some of these, this example like of a scatter plot is where probably you want to see at a row level, and then color it by order priority, and then see what's the different kinds of, so I want to see medium, this is only medium, or not specified, and then high, what are my high orders, so each order ID is displayed here, the value for each order ID is displayed here, and so this is nothing but disaggregation. So there's another way you can do it actually. So you still have the aggregation. Just track the order ID, to the level of detail, which means it is now splitting this aggregated value for each per each order ID. So that's the importance of this level. So I'm sorry, the detail. Earlier it used to be called level of detail. So what that means is, at what level do you want this report to be shown at? It's like what's the grain, what's the granularity of the report. So currently, if you don't put anything, and if this is marked as aggregate measures, then you would always see it at the highest level. So if you want to split it into any level, so this is disaggregating, you're disaggregating and putting aggregating at each row level. So which is almost equivalent to having no aggregation at all. Or you can actually go and aggregate it at whatever levels that you want. Product hierarchy, product category one. So this is a different way you can change the color and things like that. So there are different ways we can disaggregate. So next is something called the reference lines. Okay, this is something that you would generally want to have, based on the type of report that you're generating. So now I have here my order priority and my sales against each order priority. Okay, so I have the values. What is the value for each of these? These are nothing but my order priority. So I have critical orders. So I have so many critical orders, and I have these many number of high orders and low orders and all those things. But now I want to see what is the average basically. What's the average sales across all the categories? So I don't really have to go and calculate. I can just say add a reference line here and say, okay, draw it for the entire table, or I'll just tell you what that is. So draw it for the entire table. Give me on the sum of sales. Give me the average and give the label, which is a computation. Computation is nothing but this. So average is a computation here in this example. So when I say okay, you would see that there's a line that has come up here, and that has a label called average. And then when you hover over it, it will show what is the average. So this is actually the average sales in my organization across all priorities, all order priorities. Okay, so this gives you kind of an idea saying, okay, this is my average, and so you can actually swap the column, and this is also nice view, which says, this is going beyond my average. These are all below my average, so I have to make sure that my medium and critical goes high or whatever. I mean, whatever inferences that the business would want to bring out of this. So, but we can just give them an idea as to how each of these or sales for each of these order priorities is happening. So what is the average and how many are going beyond the average and how many are less than that. So that's one way, and then there's different options here, as I was saying. So what we can do here is, so I have order priority, and probably I'll go for region. I'll swap it. This is a better view. Okay. So I have this, and I'll color it by region as well. Okay. So I have this region, and if you see the average here is across all regions. It is splitting. I mean, it's giving me an average across all the regions, and this reference line is an indication of that. So if I want to change that, I want to probably say no, because I have given here entire table, so it's considering the entire table and doing the average. So I say no, give me per pane. So when I say pane, in this example again, each region becomes a single pane. So I say this, now you see it changes, no? So now it is computing the average for each of this pane and giving me the value, and then drawing this reference line. Again, you can actually go and edit it or format it, make it look a little different. You might want to do it this way, and then put a different color, give a different color to it, so that this is something. Or you can choose a different color, format the average lines, and you can also change what is being displayed here, so I can actually change. Okay, first thing is, I would say black. Okay, and then you can go here and say edit the reference line, and you can go and then change the label. Instead of showing average, if you want to show some on your own, say, write something here, and that will get applied here. So you can actually go and give whatever custom information that you want to give, or you can, and also it gives you an option of actually filling. So you can actually fill it, with some color. Under whatever is above, you can probably mark it gray, or whatever is beneath, below, you can mark it as green. Sorry, it's the other way around. Mark it slightly greenish, and then whatever is below is grayish. So this is not probably a very pretty view, but then you can do that. So there's the option available for us to do a whole lot of things using these reference lines. Okay, so this is the reference lines. This will give an idea when somebody when a guy, probably he's a manager for the central region. He looks at this graph. He'll come to he'll understand that, okay, my average sales is actually this much. And only these three are doing good. But these two are not actually. These two are the ones that is bringing my average down. So I have to do something with this. It could be order priority, or it could be category. So you can swap that. And also, if you want to, if you when you're building a view, for example, this view, I have built it on order priority, but then there is a change in requirement, and the business might say, no, I don't want to see the order priority. I want to see it by product container. So there's no big deal. Just drag that and then put it here. So it automatically comes. It automatically changes the view. But if you see here, the color has not changed. It is still by the region, because that was independently put on that. Because it was okay. Sorry, I just I just changed the order priority, and the color is still by the region, because it is it's a different dimension that I had colored it with. So there's this flexibility of you having, creating an option of changing things very quickly without having to do so many changes, and then or worrying about the impacts, and all those things. So this Tableau allows you to do this very easily. And also, if you see, the average gets recalculated based on all these things, um, based on your whatever dimension you have put over here. So that's it. And then there's another option here, which is like per per pane. Per pane. I'm sorry. Per pane is what we did. Per cell. So when we see per cell, you'll see that it will calculate average for each of the cells. But this doesn't make any sense, because for each cell itself, whatever has been sold is the average, because there is nothing else to average it with. So generally, it is like per pane, or you want to see per table, across all the regions and all the product containers, or across all product containers in each region. Those views are ones which are pretty nice. Okay, and you see here, there are many other options actually. So what we were doing till now is this part of it, the line, and you can also have a band. So you can have band from two values, maximum. So it is nothing but it just colors it, saying that, okay, this is my maximum and this is my minimum, kind of a thing, and then it puts a band, it colors it. So it all depends on what kind of visualization you're trying to build, and what you want to actually show and bring out in your visualization. Or you can also do a distribution. So this is again I'm doing it per pen, and you will have different values. So you can do a 60%, 80% of the minimum. I'll just apply this, and you will see what happens. So it is actually giving me this is the 60% of minimum, this is the 80% of minimum, kind of a thing. So this is all options that are available, and then we would use it based on the kind of requirement that comes up. This is again, you have here, this is confidence level. These are all different level, different kinds of reference lines that would give out different insights. So you can have something like a percentile or a quartile. Quantiles are something like it will split that into like a. Okay, I'll just show you this. Yeah, if you see here, it is split it into a median. This is a median being calculated, and then you have the lower quartile, and then you have the upper quartile. So these are different again based on the requirement. You can use any of these, and basically Tableau gives you all these things. So we didn't really have to go and build and identify what is the median and what is the average and all those things, and at what level you want to find out. And so it's all very simple. You can just right click and create these different visualizations and add these reference lines and all, which would actually add value to the report that you're doing. So if we just have this, if we didn't have this, this also is a nice view, but then it will always add value when you add a reference line and say, okay, this is your average, this is the average for your region, and this is what the sales are for each of the containers. So that way it will add value to the information that we are giving. Generally what we should always look at is, it's very easy to draw, create a bar graph or a pie chart and things like that, but we always need to think from the business perspective, like how is this visualization that I'm building going to add value to what the business user is looking at. So apart from just giving him the sales per container, now I'm telling him that this is the average, or any other insight that you can give. You can give a percentile or a quantile that I showed you earlier. So those things we can add and give it to them. Okay, so this slide actually shows you the steps, actually whatever I went through, so to create this the reference lines. So next we can you can try out these reference lines actually, and create these custom ones, change the things, and you can try out those percentiles and all, how, and you can see what values come in, how it calculates, and all those things you can try out when you're practicing. And if you have any questions, you can ask me. So now let's move on to the trend lines. Okay, this is something. Trend lines are something like, in simple like English, it is something like it gives you a trend of based on whatever sales and profit or whatever we are having. So it just tells us, it gives us a trend. It draws a line and says, okay, your sales and profit, sales versus profit is going up, so which is a good thing. Or a sales versus profit is going down or flat, which may not be that encouraging. So it just trend line, which will tell us how our business is going. So again, we'll go through the same exercise, and I'll just take profit and sales and then do a scatter plot. Okay, and then bring in the order ID to the detail level of detail. Okay, and then color it by product container. Okay, you can change this again. You can change this visualization. So now you're seeing the circles. Circles here, but we can go to the filled circles, and then you can increase the size a little bit, and then you can actually in the color you can go and edit it, make it a little less little transparent, and then add a border to it, and all different kinds of things you could do with it. Okay, and another. So once you do this, adding a trend line is simple. Just go here, right click here on this. It shows trend line. You say show trend lines. Okay, so now you see that it's showing a lot of trend lines. So what it's actually doing is, for each container here, it is calculating the trend based on the information that we have already in the view, which is the sum and the sales and the profit. So based on that, it identifies how the sales and what's the correlation between the sales and profit, and then it draws a trend line for us. Again, this is like this is a just you can call this a statistical report here, illustration here, because it actually does a statistical modeling. So it will show you here, so this is the model that it uses. So I'm not too much of a statistical guy, but then using Tableau, you can actually build this simple linear regression and then coefficient correlation kind of models without really having to do too much of like too much on our own. Tableau gives it to us. So here, if you see, now it has created trend lines per color. So I don't want to have it broken down by container. So I can simply go ahead here and see. This is what I was talking. So this is a linear regression model that it has given. We can also go for a logarithmic, exponential, or polynomial based on what kind of trend lines you're looking for. And if you see here, this is something like it says allow a trend line per color. So I don't want this. I'll say apply. Now you would see there's a single trend line which is across these product containers based on the sales and profit across the product containers. So this way we can build the trend lines. And if you want to see like what is the model, what is the statistic model that's been used here, you can go and say describe model. So it will just tell you like what are the coefficients and what's the pi value and what's the standard error and t value, p value and things like that, which are all completely like r square, standard error, and these are all completely your statistical information. So if you are interested in statistics, you can actually build a lot of different models in Tableau. It gives you these linear models and all. It will give you automatically through trend lines and other things. But if you want to build actually your own z-score and all those things, you can actually go ahead and build those using the calculated fields. So I have some examples which I would share with you later, because these are all generally advanced analytics, which is sometimes useful, but not most of the times. You would just create a trend line and leave it at that, saying okay, this is the trend line, and if you want to see okay, this is the model which we have, which Tableau built for us. Okay, so that's about the trend lines. So again, I'm just showing here like what all are the different types of trend lines you can create based on the model basically. So you can create a linear model, and then you have this logarithmic. You just try changing those and see how it works here. So the calculation that it applies is different now. If you see a describe model, so you will see that it's the formula is different. The model formula is different. It's using the log because it's a logarithmic trend line that we've asked for. This is again all based on the requirement. It's all, sometimes most times actually we just use the linear trend line, which gives us an idea of how it's trending. We can also give an exponential. So this is again an exponential, and the model would be different here now. So the model is different, and the values are different. So you can actually do this. You can, if somebody is really wanting it to be statistically perfect and all. So this is where you can actually copy the model and then pass it on to any statistical person who can actually validate whether how good this model is or not. But then you cannot really do anything about this, so because it's a built-in model, it'll not, you cannot modify that, so you have these 3-4 options which you have to use. Okay. And more often than not, these models that Tableau gives us are actually enough for whatever kind of reportings that we do, because we don't really do so much of a high statistical reporting and kind of things, because when we're talking about statistics, you have separate tools and BI for that. It's like a SAS or an R, which uses which you get which is used to create these kind of models. So this is more of a reporting tool. Tableau would remain a reporting tool, but with some capabilities of creating these statistical models. So this is the including color and excluding colors. So it's like each, if you have a as we saw, or if you have colors and if you colored it by a category or something or any other dimension, it will actually create different trend lines, and then you can say no, I don't want it per color, so that it can give you a single trend line. Okay, and then staying with trend lines and it need not be trend lines, but it could be any graph. There is something called a small multiple. So it's also called a trellis chart. And so you might hear about this a lot, like trellis charts or lattice charts, grid charts. So these are nothing but small multiples. When we say small multiples, it is something of this kind, which gives you the what we did similar kind of a thing. So you have the region, you have the sales, and you have these years, the sales for these 4 years here, and what this is doing is it's putting next to each other the sales, the scatter plot, and the trend line. So what it does is, the moment you look at it, it will give you a very concise, in a concise fashion. It just gives you all the information about how the trend lines have been, the trends have been over the past 4 years, and how has the sales and profit scatter plots been over the last few years. Yeah. So it's very simple to build this. It's a, this trend line. Small multiples are nothing but the similar kind of see, if you see here, is nothing but the same type of we build a scatter plot first, build a scatter plot, and then split it, level up this, split it by this, and then you add all the other dimensions that you want. So here, if you see, we have the time dimension and then the region dimension. So you drag the time dimension, okay, and you just drag the region dimension here to the row. So yeah, simple. Convert by region. And there's another thing. If you see here, there's something called shapes. I can use the shapes, and then I can select the shapes based on my region or any other dimension. So I can use the shape. I can use product category to create a shape, and I'll put it here. So you probably, it's not very clear because it's a small multiple, and then it's got a lot of things here going on. But if you see, if I click on this one, it'll highlight. All these squares are getting highlighted, and then when I click on the plus, so office supplies is plus, and then zero, O, circle is a technology, and then a square is a furniture. So we can do a lot of different things here. So this is nothing but a small multiple. When we, it could be anything. It need not be just a trend line. It could be any graph. So it could even be a bar graph. You can just try changing this. It could even be a bar. This won't work. We'll have to create a bar chart first, and then we can make it as a small multiple. So it is mainly to find out a nice little trend that you would see. Then I put this profit. I put the region. Okay. So here we have another small multiple. So here we have the region, we have the product category, and also you have the years. So it depends depending upon what kind of report that you're building and how you want to show this. So all those things. So you create these different types of charts and things. So, but when we talk about small multiples, it's mainly to give you a overall visualization for over the past few years or something like that in a single view. So you can easily relate to this. So you can easily relate to what happened in 2010. It just went over the top. But then here in 2009 it was not that great. So that kind of a for central region. So that kind of an insight you can easily draw by looking at the small multiples. Yeah, and I think the next topics are about like functions that we have. I think we would take these functions, the data. I think we'll cover this tomorrow along with the along with the dashboards. So till now, whatever we have done, it's all like within a sheet. So when I say within a sheet, no, it's this one. So each of this is just within a sheet. So we will have to actually put all these things together, whichever makes sense, So all the graphs into a single dashboard, and then put them all together in a nice way, and then present it to the users. So that's the most one of the most important uh, parts of all our development process, because we might be creating some really nice graphs, which gives you a lot of information, but if we don't put it all together in the right way, then it doesn't really add value. So that's about dashboards. So what we will do is we'll go through those functions tomorrow, a few of the functions, and then also creation of a dashboard. And while we create the dashboard, there are a whole lot of things that will come out, like the layout containers and all the topics that are related to a dashboard and creation of dashboards. We would cover all those things tomorrow. Meanwhile, you can actually practice some things today, and then if you like just the basic, you can try creating those bar charts and line charts, or the play around with the date dimensions. Like converting this date into a. See, now it's a discrete date. You can try just converting it into a continuous and see what happens. It's all like it changes. Why it changes? So how it changes? You can just play around, and then any questions that you have, you can come up with those, so that we can discuss those questions as well tomorrow, and then do the remaining part. So does it sound okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So okay. I mean, till now, I mean, what's your idea has been about Tableau? Like, how do you feel it is? Is it nice? Is it,
Yeah, I feel it's alright. It's just a way to represent the data
yeah.
using mainly graphs and figures,
Right. Right.
and you just have to see the data and choose for yourself what is the best analytical tool that would represent the data well.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. We can. Yeah. I mean, that's what I was saying. We can do most things using Excel and Word, but the only thing over here is, it's like the ease at which you could do. I mean, we could do it with Excel, but then here it happens with just a drag and drop kind of a thing, and then it also provides a whole lot of other features. Like one of the main things is the web enablement. So when we publish this onto a server, it becomes available for anybody across the globe. So you might have business leaders or the business users sitting in any part of the world, and they can actually start seeing this, as and when it gets refreshed. You have live data connection, and as and when it gets refreshed, you could see it on or even on their iPads or on iPods. I mean iPads and all their handheld devices. So those features are available, and also you can actually do a lot of things. I've initially spoken about the different connectivity to the databases. So it can connect to a lot of different databases, and also you can schedule extracts. So like if you have a heavy duty data warehouse, where you have millions and billions of records, and connecting live doesn't work all that well. You can actually create extracts. And Tableau extracts this data, and then creates its own different type of a file called the TDE file, and then it works on the TDE file, making it faster, and then you can schedule those extracts, and then I mean there are a whole lot of things that you can do with the permissions, and then of course you can actually, once you have it published, you can export it to a PDF or a image and things like that. So and you can subscribe to this, something like once it is on the server, you can subscribe to this. A person can subscribe to a view, and then it would every day or every however the subscription is set up, so the person would receive this a snapshot of it, and then on clicking on that, it would take it to the real report on the web. So, yep, it's well, I'm not web enablement. I'm not sure. Probably we could do it on the SharePoint thing, but I'm not sure if it I mean, Excel can achieve all the things that is done here. And that too, yeah, I mean, that too, it is, it doesn't, I mean, even when you're doing it with Excel, I mean, there's a amount of like coding and things go into it, macros, or you want to write some things, So here, most of the things are available for you, and only a few of the fields, calculative fields that you might have to write, but other things, it is generally available. So actually, and also what we've seen now till now is like the basic charts and reports. So these are all pretty simple. We can also have a lot of like functionalities built in this within the dashboard. So when we build the dashboard, I will show you. Like there's something called guided analytics. So it's something like based on we show a summary view to the user or the business user, and then guide him through and make him navigate through different dashboards or different sheets, and then may take him through until the details. So it's something called a guided analytics. I will show that when uh, we build the dashboards. Okay, then I think you guys practice some things and you come back with questions tomorrow so that we can have a discussion on that, and then we will go ahead with some of the date and string functions, and then the dashboards.
Okay.
Sounds okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Yeah. Have a good day. Bye.